Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to treat a deeply absurd piece of history with the total deadpan gravity it absolutely deserves. We're looking at a highly specific sequence of events where a head of state lost a battle, lost his lunch, and permanently lost his lower appendage.
The central premise of our object-centric narrative today begins with General Antonio López de Santa Anna. He was the president of Mexico somewhere between 5 and 11 times, depending on the historical criteria you use. He was a man of vast power, vast wealth, and eventually a vast collection of prosthetic limbs. He had at least 3 artificial legs in his lifetime, and as it turns out, the American state of Illinois currently possesses the nicest one.
Part 1. The leg takes a walk.
Now, to understand exactly why a Midwestern military museum holds a foreign president's limb, we first have to establish a timeline of the general's profound misfortune. In 1838, during a conflict with France that history literally calls the Pastry War, Santa Anna's ankle was shattered by French cannon fire in Veracruz, so his real leg had to be amputated. But because he was a man who deeply understood optics, he didn't just dispose of it. He gave his severed leg a full state funeral with military honors, complete with cannon salvos and poetry, and buried it in a crystal vase in Mexico City just to remind everyone of his sacrifice. Fast forward to 1847, he loses his custom cork replacement leg at the Battle of Cerro Gordo, and just to complete the historical record, he later loses a temporary peg leg to American soldiers who reportedly used it as a baseball bat before leaving it in Decatur, Illinois.
$1,300. That is the exorbitant sum General Santa Anna paid to a former cabinet maker named Charles Bartlett to craft a custom, luxury replacement limb. Made of finely carved cork, wood, and leather, and fitted with a sleek black boot for his notably small feet, it was an absolute marvel of 19th century prosthetics. I mean, it was literally a leg fit for a dictator.
Part 2. A lunch interrupted. It's April 18, 1847, and the Mexican-American War is raging. Let's review the general's highly questionable tactical sequence at the Battle of Cerro Gordo. Step 1. Command a massive defensive force against the advancing United States Army. Step 2. Decide that right in the middle of artillery fire, it's the perfect time to pause, sit in your luxury carriage, tuck a napkin into your collar, and eat an entire roast chicken. Step 3. Get completely ambushed by the 4th Regiment of the Illinois Volunteer Infantry, who crash through the brush and interrupt your meal. And finally, Step 4. Panic, cut a horse loose from the carriage, and flee for your life into the wilderness.
Because his retreat was so incredibly hasty, Santa Anna was forced to travel extremely light. And this brilliantly illustrates the completely bizarre inventory of items he abandoned in the brush. He left behind his carriage. He left behind a chest containing $18,000 in gold, which was meant to pay his soldiers. He left behind his half-eaten roast chicken. And, because he wasn't currently wearing it, he left behind his $1,300 custom cork leg.
Part 3. The Spoils of War. So, what exactly happens when a group of infantrymen from central Illinois stumble upon this scene? Well, the aftermath perfectly contrasts the priorities of the two parties. On one hand, we have the fleeing Mexican general prioritizing his life over his gold and his mobility. On the other hand, we have the victorious Illinois infantrymen. They were honorable men, so they dutifully turned the $18,000 in gold over to their commanding officers. They were practical men, so they sat down and finished eating the general's roast chicken. And they were, apparently, men with a very strange sense of humor because they looked at the custom cork leg and decided, yep, we're keeping this. And they didn't just keep it, they immediately claimed it for the historical record. They inscribed the shin of the leg, immortalizing Private Waldron, 1st Sergeant Rhodes, and 2nd Sergeant Gill. The prosthesis instantly became a spoil of war. When the soldiers eventually returned home to the Midwest, they actually toured the leg around, allegedly charging curious locals a nickel or a dime in hotel bars just to look at the thing.
You know, the capture of this hill and this specific appendage was a defining moment for these men. So much so that when the veterans returned to their hometown of Griswold in Piatt County, Illinois, they officially renamed the entire village to Cerro Gordo in 1855. Just think about that. A small town in the American Midwest permanently named after a Mexican battlefield where their grandfathers stole a president's leg.
And just to firmly close the loop on Santa Anna's replacements, after losing the corked leg, he used a rudimentary wooden peg leg. Well, Illinois soldiers managed to capture that one as well in a subsequent skirmish. As I mentioned earlier, historical accounts note they actually celebrated their acquisition by using it as a baseball bat. That secondary leg ultimately came to rest in the home of an Illinois governor in Decatur. So Illinois, it seems, just has a monopoly on Santa Anna's prosthetics.
Part 4. A very steadfast no. This brings us to the modern era and the highly emotional, ongoing fight regarding its rightful home. The leg was formally donated to the state of Illinois in 1922. Today, it safely resides at the Illinois State Military Museum in Springfield, Illinois, which is just 2 miles away from Abraham Lincoln's tomb. Now, recently, there's been a passionate grassroots effort led by history professor Teresa Van Hoy and her students from St. Mary's University in Texas. They actually traveled by bus all the way to Springfield, arguing that the leg is a piece of Mexican heritage that belongs back in Mexico. They point out the irony that Abraham Lincoln, who rests nearby, was fiercely opposed to the Mexican-American War. However, it absolutely must be noted here that the Mexican government itself has never issued a formal request for the leg's return.
Which leaves us with the ultimate, highly debated question. A question posed by Texas students, by historians, and by totally confused onlookers. Will the state of Illinois ever repatriate the custom cork leg to Mexico, or maybe even just lend it to a museum in Texas? Well, the answer provided by the Illinois National Guard is blunt, anticlimactic, and completely uncompromising. No, they will not. The leg is going absolutely nowhere. When the students from Texas visited the museum and pleaded their case, museum curator Bill Lear delivered this incredibly unyielding bureaucratic defense. He stated, "As a museum, it's about education, but the leg isn't so much the story, it's the story of Illinois soldiers and the battle. What this is a vehicle for a conversation so that we can educate." And right after this deeply flat explanation, the leg was placed back into a gray box and returned to storage.
We end our explainer today with this final thought. Who truly owns the legacy of a captured artifact? Is it a sacred piece of a nation's history that deserves repatriation, regardless of whether the government formally asks for it? Or is it simply the spoils of war, an eccentric trophy, earned by outnumbered Illinois farmers who survived a brutal battle and, well, earned the right to finish a dictator's chicken dinner? The leg isn't walking away anytime soon, so it's a question we'll just have to keep asking.